Hey guys, it's Alexandra. Today I'm going to be talking to Salsabila. She is a Bangladeshi woman who actually just immigrated in 2014. So she's going to be giving her perspective on everything from the Black Lives Matter movement to cultural appropriation. We're going to be talking about fashion, body positivity. So I think she shares a really unique point of view on these issues. I definitely learned a lot, so I think that you will too. I hope that you'll stay tuned to hear what she's got to say and subscribe for more videos. All right, thank you.
My confidence comes out of survival. It's uncomfortable and disrespectful when people make my hijab and my practice of my faith only about my hair. Put a finger down if you have detached yourself from the idea of having a potential romantic relationship because you have never seen people who look and act like you be romanticized or glorified. I feel like brown and black plus size bodies aren't seen as beautiful, pretty, and graceful as white and lighter skinned plus size bodies. There are a bunch of non-South Asian women just like acting like they're Indian goddesses and divines, which is like so problematic because what the fuck? I'm Bangladeshi. I'm from Bangladesh. I would consider myself as a fairly new immigrant. I came here in like 2014. A lot of people say that my English is really good. That's because I went to a English medium not high school there. So I had to speak English growing up in school. And yeah, and I'm Muslim, like a practicing hijabi, and I do love my culture a lot. Like I take pride in it, and I am 20. I am currently majoring in sociology, which really opened doors for me to like validate the things that I like, certain perspective that I have on say culture or like groups of people. Studying sociology and having like other professors who also study the same thing in a way validated like my feeling towards certain like ideas, which it should have been the case like where like academia has like your point of view is only valid if it's through academia, which shouldn't be the case. However, like in our society, we value academia a lot, higher education. So that's why, I felt validated. Validation is validation. I'm not gonna argue whenever I do feel validated. But yeah, and I speak my mind a lot. So that's me. And my name is Salsabila Lamisa.
So how do you think, I had no idea you immigrated so recently. How do you think your life has changed since then?
So the way I treated immigrating to the US is like starting off completely fresh. It was really hard, I'm not gonna lie, because I left my few friends that I had. I left them, and it was really hard because it was like there was already an image of me that people had that I couldn't control. And I tried really hard to like kind of break that image, even though I don't think now that I've grown, it's not my responsibility to like break those stereotypical images, but I tried my best. However, through breaking those images, I found myself. And I think coming to the US and having a completely new, like fresh like plate really helped me like find myself and I don't know, gain more confidence because there's nothing holding me back. But it is really hard being an immigrant when you have like basically nobody to rely on but yourself.
Yeah. What are some of those stereotypes that you had to break through that I'm sure you're still breaking through?
Yeah. So first things first is like, already assuming that immigrants, have to speak broken English, which by the way is not a bad thing. English is English. Like the same people who complain about immigrants speaking broken English cannot speak Spanish properly even after taking like 2 to 3 years of Spanish, and another thing was like I was considered loud and outspoken, whereas my people, as in like women who wear the hijab, are usually like quieter. What people think, basically, that is not true. We just don't. It's like we have to feel comfortable, and I feel like mostly people who think that we are like shy or soft it's because we have to be that way because you don't make that place safe enough for us or comfortable enough for us. But you know, it is not true. Like hijabis are not quiet, and then people are like, oh my god, I've never seen like people like you who wears the headscarf make these kind of jokes and like laugh so loudly and da 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 da. And I'm like, I don't know what that's like. I'm just another person. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Also like, oh, the fact that people thought like, you know, everyone thinks that we're oppressed. That's like the first thing. And like to constantly tell people again and again, no, this is my choice. This is my choice. No, I don't feel hot in it. No, I'm used to it. It gets annoying at one point. Some people are respectful, which I really like. You know, if you're respectful and you ask questions, I actually really enjoy that because you're looking to learn. But some people are just straight up offensive and just already has these assumptions and they just project those on you. So that was like the most annoying part.
So when people, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the hijab. So I saw one of your first videos that I saw was somebody had commented saying something like, well, your hair is showing. Can you see your hair is showing? Like your hair is not supposed
Yeah,
to
yeah.
show. So if you want to talk a little bit about like what it actually represents and why to you, like it's not the whole purpose of it is not just covering your hair.
Right. So when I talk, this is a very hot topic. When I talk about this, sorry, you'll hear sirens. I live in New York City and it's crazy. But when I talk about this, I get like pushed as in like in a negative way from both ends. So from Muslims and from non-Muslims, because here you have non-Muslims constantly telling me, well, I can see your hair. What is the meaning of this? Da, 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 da. And then you have Muslims telling me, well, what you're saying is wrong. And it's annoying. However, to me, what I practice it, which I think is very important, is to kind of show a symbol that, hey, this is my faith and I'm like really close to my faith. This is why I'm choosing to wear this. And the purpose is not to cover your hair. Like in the text, it never mentions hair, but like people like to, I don't know, for some reason hold on to that part. It is like covering your hair, and the way we do practice the hijab comes traditionally from like the mothers or the wives or the daughters of the prophets that we had. And those are the people we look up to. So in order to know like, oh my gosh, how should I dress in order to be, you know, like show respect, is you look up to those women, right, who are considered closest to like the most respectable people in the religion. And like when you police hijabi women on just, oh my gosh, I can see your hair, oh my gosh, can I see your hair, it really objectifies the hijab and it makes it all about hair, which is like kind of disrespectful because you're completely like ignoring the parts where it is about my spirituality, it is my personal choice, you know, it truly serves as a connection between me and God. And yeah, and it also so different people wear differently because of how they want to express themselves, and to like box these hijabi women and be like, no, there's only one way of doing it, is very problematic, and it actually makes this journey, which is already hard, harder for us. So yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
And I think like, when you talk about other parts of your appearance also, like you know, the South Asian clothes, the traditionally South Asian clothes, how they're kind of like whitewashed in a way. Can you speak a little bit more about that, like what you see, how you see it represented in magazines and on you know, online and stuff versus like what it really means to you?
So at first, like when I first came here, there weren't a lot of representation, but now that there are representation, I wouldn't say that all representation is good representation, because a lot of them are like surface level representation, or a lot of people will represent our culture but will have no respect or connection with the actual people of that culture, whether it be like American, you know, South Asians, or just white people, or any non-South Asians. I think it is heavily aestheticized, if you will. I don't know if that's a word, but I just use it. It's like it
has no, like, you can't trace it back to any people or any history or anything. It is just there because it looks pretty, which is problematic, because when you like something just because it looks pretty, it waters down like so much history and meaning of it, that it's so easy to just like throw around, which happens. That's how it turns into a trend. And then you see like a lot of like Western South Asians are gonna get mad at me for saying this, but a lot of people who do allow it are Western, like the diaspora in the West. They allow the whitewashing of the culture because they just wear it because it's pretty, without actually like doing, you know, if you're gonna take a pretty part of a culture, you should also take the unpretty part of the culture and talk about it and raise awareness about it. And that's why cultural appropriation is like a thing, because you pick and choose, right? Which, and then things that you do choose is not because you respect it and you know, connected to actual people and actual traditions. You just find it pretty and you just want to feel pretty. But the thing is, the pretty that you're feeling is not set up for you. The pretty that you're feeling wearing those clothes or accessories, those are not meant for you. Those are meant for the people within the culture. And a lot of people might disagree, but it's really disrespectful to just water down cultures and just wear it just because you feel pretty. And then tomorrow you decide, well, this culture is not pretty anymore, so I'm not gonna wear it anymore. You know, so that's why it's such an issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. And when, you know, I think it's hard like when you're talking about trends, when I feel like, especially with fashion and stuff, from my point of view as a white woman, I see plus size women being like really welcomed nowadays, more like representation in that department. But from your point of view and from other people that I've heard talk about it, that's not really universally accepted. It really seems like I feel like it's accepted because I'm part of it. I fit it, but I fit like it's my race. So it's when I see the branching out of different body sizes that are white, to me, that's like, oh, we're being diverse or representing bodies.
Yeah.
But what does that feel like from your point of view?
First things first, I think like, you know, little change is still change. But the thing is, the history of the change, like the reason you see that change in the first place is because of the people that you're not showing. So what I mean is that the body positivity movement or the body acceptance movement was created by plus size Black women. However, because, and many may disagree, but a lot of movements get validated and are seen as more, what's it called? I guess, yeah, valid, because white people give it attention. And, you know, that shows like power difference, right? When white people talk about something, that's why we say we need more white allies, because white people have the privilege to, I guess, give the platform and bring it, you know, put some light in it. But what happened with the body positivity movement is that instead of white women, plus size white women, shedding some light on the history of it and the people who started it, they took it as their own. They commodified it, which allowed brands to just see it as like a trend, something to make money off of. And the only people who are getting credit for it or are seen are white women, plus size white women. But what about the people who started it, right? And even within the plus size, right, it is like a specific type of like bodies, right? It's like you have to be conventionally curvy, right? Little to no stomach, big butt, big boobs, wide hips, and the hourglass shape. And that's problematic because is it really body positivity if you only see a certain type of bodies? Sorry, it's so cold, like I'm freezing.
Okay.
And for me, I don't see representation in like when I see body positivity movement or the people on the forefront of the movement, because most bodies there are of white women. And it's just really sad, because again, it's like trampling over the voices of the Black women who started it. And on top of that, you know, it's not fair that only white plus size women get to profit off of this. But the people who did all the groundwork, all the activism, they're completely disregarded. Additionally, it has also only become again the conventionally curvy bodies and no disabled bodies. What about the disabled fat bodies? You know, like we don't also see that. Maybe one or two, but not as much. So yeah, it's really hard to also, like, on the other end, you now have like skinnier people making the movement about themselves, which like pushes us even further away. And that's another thing, is that why isn't body positivity about us skinny people? We also feel like insecure, which is like, it's not about insecurity. It's about systemic oppression, systemic discrimination that we are fighting through this movement. You know, we all feel insecure. It's okay. We all feel insecure. We're humans. But yeah, it's the continuous marginalization of Black and brown bodies. And also, like, the only plus size bodies that are glorified are of white, conventionally curvy women.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, like just hearing you talk to me about it. The way that you talk about things is very sure of yourself and very like confident. And you do touch on how, you know, people will go around and, you know, compliment, oh, you're so confident. How did you get so confident? Like, I wish I was that confident. And I thought it was so interesting how you talk about it in a way where it's not like you really like had a choice. You know, you didn't get to have the moment where you decided you were going to love yourself and be confident. So can you talk a little bit more about like the difference between that and you know, in your culture versus privileged white people who get to have that experience of, I learned to love myself and be confident?
Right. I think it ties back to when you asked me like breaking the images for hijabi women.
Mm-hmm.
Like it started from that moment where I was like, if I'm not confident in the way that I am, these people are not gonna take me seriously. And whether it be the little things like cracking a joke in a class, right? People poking fun at me, right? And making offensive jokes regarding my religion, right? I have to confidently shut them up, or else, like, you know, they'll think it's a joke. I'll say like, oh guys, stop it. Not do like, hey, stop it, that's not funny. You know, they're like to set up boundaries. And for many marginalized groups, right, like Black women, trans women, fat people, right, queer people, you have to be confident, or else like people will trample all over you. And I really do think that we don't get that chance of like finding like the self-discovery of like, oh my God, like I am confident. And I feel like when you're like a brown hijabi, like plus size woman, right, you hear it all the time. Oh my God, you're so confident. I wish I was confident like you. Like, baby, like I didn't choose to be confident. I had to be as a part of survival, or else like people would honestly not listen to me. I would be a shadow in the back. And I chose that I don't want to be a shadow in the back. And confidence had to come with that. Um, and when they say fake it till you make it, it really is true. You have to, or else people are gonna walk right all over you.
Right. And when you see, you know, you start to see more conversations about Black Lives Matter and the difference between how that's treated by Black and brown people and by white people, what do you think is an appropriate way for white people to support Black Lives Matter without sounding tone deaf?
So I'm not Black, therefore I don't want to say like, oh, this is what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
because again, this is not my place. But I want to echo the voices of my Black friends and Black activists. um I think what a lot of people have done that has been offensive towards the Black community is treating it like a trophy when you support Black Lives Matter, or putting the Black BLM in your bio while continuously being anti-Black is like a slap in the face. Instead of, I guess, glorifying this movement, actually like care about the movement and the people in the community. It is not about, you know, making a post and a thread and having it get like 10K likes. It is about literally checking up on your Black friends, giving back to the Black community, and honestly reparations. Like if you literally see like a Black person who needs money, even if it's like $2, like give it. It's that simple. Also, again, not making it a trend. I feel like the reason a lot of people talked about the Black Lives Matter in the first place was because they saw it as a trend and treated it like you had to talk about it. When you make it that way, people just talk about it on the surface level and they don't really care. And it's actually more disrespectful that way. And a lot of Black people were upset when people were just posting Black squares or just saying hashtag Black Lives Matter, but nothing else. You know, instead of maybe trying to prove that you support Black Lives Matter, you should maybe educate yourselves and have conversations, or just listen, or give a platform to those voices who are not heard. And really, that's all you have to do. And you know, if you really think that you have to prove your support, then maybe like work on how you're really supporting it, because at the end of the day, you're the one who knows the truth. And if the truth is that you truly support it, then you wouldn't have to prove it to anyone else, because you're doing the work. If you're doing the work, there's nothing to prove. Yeah, just hear Black voices and let them speak instead of trampling over them.
Right. And then I thought another a cool thing that you touched on that I really had not considered at all. Most of the stuff that you talked about, I was like, oh yeah, like it gave me a little more deeper look into stuff that I kind of considered. But one thing that you talked about was having like romantic relationships glorified, like people that look like you in romantic relationships, like in the media, is just not something that's shown. And I never really thought about that until I heard you say it. And then I was like, that is so true. Like you never really do see that. So what do you think about that?
So it is like really hard. And I recently just figured out why it's so hard for me to believe that someone may or may not like me. It's because whether it be even Bollywood, I don't even think it has to do anything with my ethnicity. I just think it has to do with the beauty standards. Mm-hmm. And how people treat those traits that I possess. So for example, I'm like all the traits that intersect with my identity. So being a hijabi, being plus size, and being brown, none of those are truly seen as desirable. If they are, it's fetishized. And the reason for that is because in the mainstream media, there's only a certain type of like personalities and people who look a certain way who are like seen as like the main character, or you know, the girl next door. And usually they're white, and in South Asian and Bollywood, they're like skinny with like very Eurocentric features, fair skinned, you know, flowy luscious hair. And you know, when you see that growing up again and again and again, you kind of internalize. You're just like, oh, people who look like that deserve love. But when you don't see yourself, I feel like how fat people go on about their romantic relationships would be a lot healthier, or they would be a lot more confident if they have seen people like them in movies or TV shows or even books, you know, be loved or romanticized. But that's not the case. Therefore, we don't have any, say, like blueprint where we are just like, oh, like, you know, I've seen so many people like me who fell in love. I'm sure like this is cute. This is nice. But there's nothing for us to like look through or look at. So we're just like, wait, what's like, is this real almost? You know, and then you have your family where, you know, a lot of fat people can relate, especially like if you're brown, like, or ethnic. You're told like, oh, you're fat, you're never gonna find love. Oh, you're fat, how are you gonna get married? So then you internalize that, and it actually makes your relationship way more toxic than you realize, because it is something that is so internal that it's not between, you know, the other person and you. It's literally just you fighting yourself. So it's a really hard thing because you never did those things to yourself. It's just internalization that other people have caused you, which in turn just affects your relationships. I can't tell because I've never been in a romantic relationship, but I can't see myself in one because of that. So yeah, it's really hard.
Right. So when when you verbalize that stuff and you put that out there online, what do you hope people are taking away from your videos?
Honestly, I hope more people are like you. I truly, it feels really nice when people like comment like, oh, like that is so true, or just someone else who feels the same way about me. They're like, oh my god, like I feel the same way. um and I really hope that they know that they're not alone. I know this is cliche, but it really does help. I feel like the reason TikTok does so well is because of so many communities that are available there and people finding each other. And whether it is conscious or subconscious, you just feel better about it. And I feel like if people are hearing my voices, I hope at least for a second, like they think about what I'm speaking on. And I think that's very important to like have, like, I know it's cliche. People say it all the time, we need to have conversations, we need to have but we really do. And I hope like those little topics, you're not scared to talk about those with your friends or coworkers or anyone who's friendly and is willing to have a conversation. But to just have a perspective and just be open to those. I really hope people who watches those have like an open plate, an open mind towards those. I also want to say, like, if any white ally is thinking what they should do, I think what you're doing is a great thing. Giving people a voice, right? And that is super important because oftentimes we've seen it a lot when POC or Black people talk about something, it doesn't get enough attention. However, if the same words are spoken by, say, white creators, it gets, people agree on it more. So it's really great. And I feel like if we're talking about allyship, this is something that people could do, give their platforms or make those voices heard. So yeah, I hope that was make sense.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I hope that you keep sharing because I really enjoy seeing your content. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining me and sharing your voice, and I hope that you're able to reach more people in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me like a time and a place to speak. It really shows me that what I'm saying is being heard and not just going into the oblivion. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It was great meeting you.
Thank you. You too. You're super sweet and kind.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Stay in touch.
You take care.